Welcome everyone to the Superkick Daily Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Brandon Vaughn, and today we are going to be running over some of the hottest topics in professional wrestling. Hope you enjoyed the first episode. Stick along with me as we continue this journey through talking about wrestling, joining a community, growing a community. We can do this. Come on, my people. Join me. Let's get into this. First topic that I want to talk about is AEW Fight Forever, the new video game from All Elite Wrestling, just released today with the Elite Edition. And if you get the regular edition, releases tomorrow, which if you're watching it, you're probably watching it on release date. And big thing, yeah, AEW doing their video game. I have played it. I did the Elite Edition. I've put in not too much time, probably about a couple of hours, and I want to give my first impressions on it. And I'm going to be taking from what I've seen other people saying as well. So, first off, it is a limited game, obviously. It's not like WWE 2K. You don't have the ability to download created wrestlers from other creators, which is kind of disappointing. I was playing it and I was like, the overall layout of it, and I don't mean from a graphical standpoint because it does look better than this, but it kind of feels like a PS2 game a little bit. And just with the way that I was playing Road to Elite, and the way that you travel from place to place with the airplane and the board, it just seems very PlayStation 2-esque. And I know a lot of people are saying N64 and No Mercy vibes, and it is very arcadey, which, to be honest with you, I like just mashing the buttons and seeing the cool moves that I like. I was a big fan of WWE 2K Battlegrounds. So if you were a fan of that, I think you will be a fan of Fight Forever because it's not the most complex game. You don't have this big creation studio. And I don't think there is anything wrong with that. The fact that they even have some kind of creation suite is alright with me. I don't want to create like these crazy wrestlers. One thing that I wish they would have included, and I know Kenny Omega said that Fire Pro does it better than anyone, but Fire Pro didn't release a game on Xbox, and your boy has an Xbox. They should have done some kind of booking general manager mini game thing. They should have done a general manager mode, in my opinion, and I think they could have done it a lot differently than WWE has it doing it with my GM right now. I think they could do it completely different than that and put their own spin on it, but they didn't do that. And Kenny Omega said, because Fire Pro does simulation better than anyone. And I get that, man, but Fire Pro's big in Japan. It's not big in America. And if it is big in America, it's big with hardcore fans. It's not big with the average consumer. So I wish they would have done some kind of booking simulator in that. That would have been a wish of mine. They didn't do that. They have a lot of different match types. While playing through, and maybe this is just because I'm starting to get the kinks of it, it's kind of hard to target which wrestler you want to actually attack. I feel like I keep going after one wrestler, and then I just randomly start going after the other wrestler, and they didn't even hit me. This is tag team matches, battle royals. If you start playing Road to the Elite, at least for the end, I'm assuming it's for everybody, you get entered in to the casino battle royal match, and I was struggling with that. Another thing that I want to mention is I actually am curious to see a trios match, but in the Battle Royal, you could only have 4 competitors in the ring at the same time. WWE, I don't know if it still is. It definitely used to be 6 in the video games, and this is going back like 15, 20 years ago when you could have 6 people in the Battle Royal. So that's a bit disappointing that you can only have 4. And maybe it's just because it's the Casino Battle Royal. Maybe if you do a 20 or 30 man, but isn't that a 20 man? So I was disappointed by that. Tag team wrestling's alright. It's fun. I mean, it's kind of funny because I'm playing Road to the Elite right now. And it's an unlikely pairing. There's the storyline, and it's CM Punk teaming up with Hangman Adam Page, and you win the tag team titles, spoiler, and this is surface level stuff, and then if you want to turn it off, turn it off right now, but you win the tag team titles, and then Punk immediately super kicks Page, and it's done. And I haven't continued on to that point. I thought that would be a pretty good cutoff point, because I want to finish Dynamite, which I did, and I'll touch on Dynamite in a bit. I wanted to finish that, and there's a singles match, and I just want to, record this before I get into that. So, my first impressions, I dig it, but I didn't have the highest expectations, just because everybody says this game is brutal. And IGN did a review, and I think they gave it a 6, which is pretty lackluster. But I think that if you're an AEW fan, you will like this. From what I'm playing with it, it definitely feels better than TNA Impact. Remember that, guys? TNA Impact? That was a brutal game to play through. This is not as frustrating, so I'll give it that. It's better than TNA Impact so far. If I have to retract that statement, I will. I took a few cracks at TNA Impact back in the day. I got a few hours back in there. Back in 2008, 2009, just because I was like, well, I mean, it's wrestling. It's cheap too. They always had a discount for 10, which is... Probably could have waited on this, actually, now that I think about it. But I didn't. I had to get it literally the day before because it's a wrestling video game. And I want to keep it with AEW. The next topic I'm going to be talking about is Jack Perry. I don't know if we're calling him Jungle Boy or not anymore. He said he's sick of a song right now, and he'll be getting new music by the sounds of it. Jack Perry cut a promo on this week's Dynamite, saying that, he's rich, he's all about cashing checks, and I'm not going to use the words that he used, but he is in a relationship with the most attractive women on that whole roster, in his opinion. Anna Jay, that's, his opinion. He phrased it a bit differently than I did, but, it's, I want to keep it PG around here. Unlike heel Jack Perry, he turned on Hook at Forbidden Door, guys, and explained some of his actions. I think that'll be a program moving forward. Jungle Boy versus Hook. I like the fact that Jack Perry is heel, because he is a very vanilla milquetoast babyface, and you've seen him for 4 years. He did the thing with Luchasaurus, and then he broke up with him, and he got the challenge for the AEW World Title, and he got the challenge for the IWGP World Title. But I think he proved, both at Double or Nothing and at Forbidden Door, that he needs some character refinement, some development. I said before that he should go to acting classes. His dad was a pretty famous actor in the 90s. Luke Perry on 90210. He was also on Riverdale, I'm pretty sure. I never watched that show. Definitely watched 90210, though. And Luke Perry, of course, was the man. R.I.P. Luke Perry. So he's got it in his blood. If he can just go to acting school or refine that, they could have a very interesting character that can do the flips when they need to. That's another thing. He should calm down the flips a little bit. If he's going to go heel, you don't need to be doing the flippy stuff to impress everybody. That's what Sammy Guevara has a problem with doing. He's too flashy. You're a heel. Slow it down a little bit. Work the audience. I think Jack Perry potentially could have a bright future in All Elite Wrestling and in wrestling in general, but needs to just refine himself a little bit, and these guys need to be open to criticism, and I really hope that he is open to criticism, because we saw him do a clip in England, and he was asked about working with CM Punk, and was pretty dismissive of it, when he should be willing to learn. I get that you're friends with Jungle Boy, or you're friends with the Elite, but you should be willing to learn, and you should show an openness to, sure, I'd work with him. And that's the proper answer you give. And he'll learn that. I hope he does, because they could have a legit main eventer in their hands. And he does have a name, which does help, guys. If he becomes All Elite Wrestling World Champion, could be a big story. But you gotta build it up right. And he just hasn't been built up right. But I think that he has a lot of potential. I like Jack Perry a lot. I think going heel is easily the right direction. Program with Hook is alright, but ultimately, these guys need to separate, because AEW has two potential future main eventers on their hands, with Jack Perry and with Hook, to be honest with you. I like Hook a whole lot. Apparently WWE likes Hook too. I'm sure they like Jack Perry. Anybody that's under the age of 30 with a bit of talent, they'll be interested in. And those guys are two of the top wrestlers under 30. So I'll give them that right now. You just gotta refine it a little bit. That goes for both of these guys. We are going to move on to another topic. Speaking of WWE, who should win Money in the Bank this year? I think there's three big options. You got Damian Priest, representing the Judgment Day. Wouldn't that be crazy if Finn Balor beats Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Damian Priest comes out, turns face, cashes in on Finn Balor, wins that World Championship? Finn Balor's first reign lasted a day. His second reign with the World Championship on the main roster lasts less than an hour. That would be interesting. Will it happen? I don't know. Another option for this matchup would be, I think, the People's Choice, LA Knight. Yeah, people love LA Knight. And I think that if the fans were to press a button right now to have a guy win Money in the Bank, probably would be LA Knight. He's connecting with audiences internationally. He's connecting with audiences domestically. People love LA Knight. You can compare him to The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin all day long. But at the end of the day, Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin are two of the greatest wrestlers of all time. So not bad company for LA Knight to be in. And I think that, again, People's Choice. Will he do it, though? I don't know. And I've talked about this before. If they're going to pull the trigger with LA Knight, time to do it is now, because the guy isn't getting any younger, and he's clearly has a connection with the audience. I mean, he's decent in the ring. He's everything, in my opinion, that you could look for in a superstar. And sometimes, though, the guy that the fans want isn't who the company wants. We've seen that time and time again in the past. And will it be the case with LA Knight? I hope not. Could he be the next, could he be the next John Cena? Could he be the next Rock? Maybe. Could he be the next Miro, though? Potentially, right? Miro never got that brass ring. Hopefully LA Knight will reach out and get it. I mean, his biggest obstacle may be Vince McMahon, who is, according to all of these wrestling news sites like Fightful, is, back behind the scenes pulling the strings, which may be a hindrance to LA Knight because they reportedly haven't, exactly gotten along in the past. But I hope they can put that aside. Let me get into the third option. It's Logan Paul. And Logan Paul, of course, is a social media superstar. He would be able to show off that Money in the Bank briefcase on his podcast during media appearances. Would he want to lug this thing around with him, though? I don't know. I guess if it's in a studio, it's right there. But is he going to be going on the Today Show and maybe. Probably not, though, right? Apparently some stuff going on with him and crypto, too, and maybe that'll affect him potentially not winning it. I don't know. For the people saying that he's not worthy of it, and it would be a waste to have Logan Paul win it, I mean, it's not a waste that these guys won it, but we saw John Cena win this. Did John Cena need Money in the Bank? No. We saw Brock Lesnar win this. Did Brock Lesnar need Money in the Bank? No. So, there's been worse options in the past. And again, Brock Lesnar and John Cena are obviously legends, but they're not Money in the Bank guys. Money in the Bank guys are Edge and The Miz and Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. Guys like that. Not guys that have been established or guys that don't need it. So, I think Logan Paul kind of fits in the middle there. Why not put it on Logan Paul? Have him go on his podcast. I've said this for a while now. I made this pitch before he was announced for that match. Because I think that would be a good idea. You can have Logan Paul appearing with your Money in the Bank briefcase. I don't know. I don't think that would be the worst idea. I mean, me personally, if I had to choose a winner, I think the most intriguing option is Damian Priest. The Judgment Day's pretty hot still. Finn Balor's challenging Seth Rollins for the world title. Again, if he wins that would be a magical moment. Will it happen? Probably not. But it would be awesome. Am I wrong? You guys can't say that I'm wrong on this. I would like to move on to another topic, but we're rocking and rolling through this, man. We are going to touch back on AEW a little bit. Maybe I should have done this a little bit in a different order. But Blackpool Combat Club has challenged the Elite for Blood and Guts in TD Garden in Boston, which is AEW's debut in Boston. I talked about this yesterday, how Bryan Danielson will probably be missing that show. Will definitely be missing that show. That's July 19th. Bryan will be out probably 8 to 10 to 12 weeks, maybe. Danielson said it was worse than it was, so who knows, maybe. But we do know that the Elite will challenge the Blackpool Combat Club at Blood and Guts. Jon Moxley made the challenge, said that this will happen, and I think that'll be awesome. Blood and Guts has become a staple for AEW, and these Boston fans, they don't deserve it because they've gotten a lot. They get treated to a tremendous matchup. And one thing that you can't say about Tony Khan is that when he gets into a new market, man, he really does try to give the fans something special. And seeing blood and guts for that Boston audience, it is something special for that audience to take in. And I'm assuming this will be the end of the feud. But again, Bryan's out right now, so maybe if Bryan get into this again, who wouldn't love to see Bryan and Kenny again? They tore down the house when Bryan made his in-ring debut for AEW. Bryan challenged him for the title a couple of times, I think. No, that's not twice, I think. I can't remember exactly. I know he definitely challenged him once, and they tore down the house at Arthur Ashe Stadium. I can't remember if that was the second match between them, though. Might have been. The timeline gets a little bit sketchy. They had a lot of guys debut right around the same time. They had CM Punk debut for them, and they had Bryan Danielson debut for them, and they also had Adam Cole debut for them in the span of like a month, which was just crazy. Man, they probably should have spaced the Bryan signing out a little bit, maybe. I probably would have done that a little bit differently in hindsight, but, they're excited about getting Bryan Danielson, and who wouldn't be excited about getting Bryan Danielson? I'm digressing, though. What do you think about Blood and Guts, Boston, the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club? Will it be the last time they face off, or will they face off again? Will this feud continue until All In or All Out, potentially? They're right around the same time. I don't know. If it were up to me, I would probably just cut it. I'm not the most interested in this feud anymore. I get that they're having good matches, but I'm just not the biggest fan of what they're presenting with this right now. And I don't know if it's because I've gone into Blackpool Combat Club a little bit stale. I don't know if it's because I just have some residual heat with the Elite because they still won't put their differences aside with CM Punk and give me that CM Punk versus Kenny Omega match, which I have been dreaming about. Seriously, please give me that match. That would be juicy. They should do that at All Out. That's what I would do. But yeah, Blood and Guts, what do you guys think about this? If you're a Boston fan, are you excited about this? Is this the proper thing that you think you should get as a Boston fan? I don't think you guys deserve too much because y'all have gotten too much with the Patriots and the Bruins and the Celtics and, I don't know, the Red Sox, right? So, let's move on to the final topic before we head into the lightning round. This is the 25-year anniversary of Hell in a Cell. Mankind was thrown off the top of the cell by The Undertaker in one of the most infamous spots in all of wrestling history. People still talk about this to this day. 25 years later, one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history. And I'm not being hyperbolic about this. Seriously, when you ask a casual fan what the biggest moment in WWE history is, they might say this. Because people thought Mankind died. And not only that, he was thrown off, but then he was also sent through again by The Undertaker. That wasn't planned, it just kind of happened. And the show must go on, but man, we almost saw Mick Foley die in front of our very eyes that night, and thankfully he didn't. Thankfully Mick Foley's still doing his thing, guy still has a heart of gold, and The Undertaker's also doing his thing. They seem, happy in retirement, not throwing each other off of these structures anymore, but I love this, man. I remember watching the VHS of this as a kid, because I was 2 years old in 1998, so I obviously didn't see this. But watching the VHSs of this, I just going crazy. Like, oh my god, how didn't he, how is this guy, how many injuries did he sustain for this? And I was reading Mick's books, too. I think that this match has a special place in wrestling fans' hearts because anytime that you think that wrestling is real, it just means that much more. And the fact that we saw Mankind do that night, it felt real to the fans, and it still feels real because it was real, because we saw this guy put his body on the line for, say what you want about wrestling, scripted or not, he put his body on the line that night, and every wrestling fan, and I think every person can commend Mick Foley for what he did that night. And you gotta imagine the burden of The Undertaker. It sounded like The Undertaker didn't really want to do this. He was getting kind of talked into it by Mick Foley for a lot of that stuff. He went along with it, mind you, but I don't think he wanted a body on him, right? Especially a guy, by all accounts, Mick Foley and Undertaker are pretty good friends, right? So especially didn't want that. And I just, the craziness of it, man. I love it so much. And that's one of the big reasons. Like, this match in particular, King of the Ring 1998, not even the main event, crazy. The main event was Kane and Stone Cold for the WWF Championship. It was insane. It just is, just a special place of mine. I love this match. And was it a great wrestling match? God, no, man. But did it have a lot of crazy stuff in it? Yeah, and in a time where ECW was doing its thing, and WCW was doing its thing, but ECW was presenting that hardcore product. Here you go, on WWF, they give you something wild, like death-defying, like literally, right? Let's move on to the lightning round, guys. We got 4 topics for the lightning round as we wind down the Superkick wrestling show for June 28th. Baron Corbin went back to NXT last night, challenging Carmelo Hayes for the NXT Championship. He was unsuccessful in his pursuit for the NXT Championship, but looked great. Fans were praising him online for his match, and do you chalk that up to him, or do you chalk that up to Carmelo Hayes, the NXT Champion? I don't know, man. Baron Corbin looked great, though, returned to his Lone Wolf persona. You can check out video on the channel for more about that. Somebody tweeted, can Carmelo Hayes really be him at 5'8"? And yeah, he can be. MJF is like 5'10", so yeah, I think Carmelo Hayes can absolutely be him, whatever him is. Josh Allen's him, Stephon Diggs is him, whatever him is. Carmelo Hayes, can be him. This is Two Heads, One Table podcast. Look at them a shout out right now. Saying he has a bright future in WWE, but he's not him. I think he could be him, man. Doesn't matter the height. MJF's like 5'10", man. It's all good, man. I like Carmelo Hayes quite a bit. I made that very clear. And moving on, Eric Bischoff calls Will Ospreay a tougher Shawn Michaels. He was on his podcast and said that Will Ospreay reminds him of a tougher Shawn Michaels. Says he has the look and has the in-ring ability. And that is high praise coming from Eric Bischoff, a guy who doesn't love to praise modern wrestling as much as we'd like him to and validate the stuff that we like. He validates the love of Will Ospreay, and who doesn't? Will Ospreay is the man, and I think that he has a very bright future in front of him. How many 5-star matches does this guy have? He's, 30 years old? Will Ospreay can go for a long time, as long as he doesn't do anything too crazy, right? Let's move on to, what are your thoughts on Jon Moxley and Tomohiro Ishii? This Dynamite. A lot of people didn't like it that much. A lot of people said it looked too sloppy and too bloody and too backyardy. And to be honest with you, I didn't care, man. I liked this match a lot. There was blood. It was crazy. I dug it quite a bit. Call me crazy in the comments, please. Let me know if you agree or disagree. What did you think of Dynamite tonight? Because did a bit of a recap on there. You saw Chris Jericho take the L to Sting the Painmaker, taking his first L in AEW. Shout out to Sting. He really needed that win. Top young talent in the company, right? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been the Superkick Daily Wrestling Show. Cheers, guys.